Welcome everybody. Thanks for joining us today. Welcome to the final session of our Virtual Investor Series. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Andy Langsford. I'm the founder of Venture Real Estate Group. We're an investment, development, and brokerage firm based here in the Great Northwest. And we're very fortunate to have Paul Manzer join us this morning.
Good morning.
Thanks for joining us, Paul.
Yeah.
I've known Paul for a very long time now, so
happy to be here.
Yes, thanks for being here. So I'm just going to read Paul's bio. Like I said, we're very fortunate to have Paul. Paul brings over 16 years of civil engineering experience with a focus on land use planning, project management, and design strategy for a variety of site development project types. Since 2005, Paul has led the NAVIX team's business development and client relations while continuing to personally manage projects for their clients. He's a problem solver by nature, enjoys the challenges any project presents, from the visioning stage through construction. Paul relishes the opportunity to navigate an efficient solution through seemingly complex and impossible constraints, which is true. Paul's project experience spans a variety of site development markets, from retail and commercial developments, residential plats, to over 40 data center projects across the United States. Raised in a small town, Paul is most comfortable outdoors with his family, enjoying all that the Pacific Northwest has to offer. Did I sum it up?
Pretty good.
Yeah, and thanks for joining us, Paul.
Pleasure.
So I'm gonna jump right in. So this, like I said, this is our final session. So we've been joined by some great guests and we've gone through two different project types. We wanted to do a smaller project type and use a smaller apartment project that we syndicated in West Seattle. Then we're looking at this session going over 100 plus unit development projects. And we're gonna use Des Moines, one of our projects, as an example, but I'm gonna ask Paul several questions here to get his thoughts on the due diligence process when developing a 100 plus unit project. So, Paul, question number one, what makes a good development site in your mind?
That's a big good. Define good. I will take this from the perspective of a site development and civil engineer, but a good to me means a land and infrastructure basis that supports the vision of the developer. Anytime that you're fighting nature and what the property wants to do physically, geologically, hydraulically, it becomes less good. So I'll put it that way.
Yeah. No, that's good.
And then on the flip side, what makes it bad is like the inverse of that, when your goal, your pro forma, is built in such a manner that is contrary to what the piece of property will support for you. If you think of it as a partnership of the land and the infrastructure to it is part of the puzzle to make your project successful. If it's aligned with your vision, you want to find one that is aligned with your vision. It will work with you.
Yeah. No, that's good. That's good. And how can you make a site better? I'll just share a story. I don't know, vision, and I mean, you being a principal at NAVIX, and I know worked on so many projects. Understanding the vision and direction of a site and what's best for a site really is, and figuring out the highest and best use, especially the bigger the sites get, the harder that is to really figure out. It's not like it's actually a simple thing.
Right.
So having the right really people on your team is so huge.
Yeah.
So
the larger the site that you have, the bigger the canvas you have to work with, but the more unknowns you have to deal with too. And so the process to schematically get to your preferred solution might take a little bit longer because the alternatives increase with the size.
Yeah.
We deal with that quite a bit. Opportunities that we've encountered to better the usability of a site, the developability of a site, given what it is today, include recently we have worked on a project where it looked as though there's a stream running through the middle of the site at first glance.
That's always a nice surprise.
Yeah, it doesn't work. It's right through the middle. Upon further due diligence, finding that it is actually, and some site inspection, finding that it is a culverted stream. It was put into a pipe back in the 50s. And it is not a regulated or municipal owned pipeline. It would be a private pipe, which allowed us some flexibility. And it was in the city of Seattle, which allowed us to pursue or contemplate the build-over agreement, which is that you can build over that pipe so long as you don't load it and compromise the integrity or break it, so long as the developer is willing to take on the risk of having an asset that straddles a piped stream under the building. It went from a site that looked as though it would not support much more than 20 or 30 units in the remaining portion of the site that was not encumbered, to one that supported 300.
Yeah, which is a huge deal. And as you're talking, it made me think, because I know and I'm not just saying this, Paul doesn't miss a lot. You're very detailed. And I think those solutions, especially when you are looking at a big site, especially one like I told you, we're looking at I'm walking a 20-acre site next week, which presents a lot of challenges when those things come up. So finding and having a solid team, especially during that due diligence, to make sure you find those and then not just find them, but come up with a good solution. It's a big deal during that due diligence.
It is.
Period.
Yeah. It's really tough you will find those eventually, right? The sooner you can find them, the more confident you can be moving to the next step, spending more money to advance or develop the project. Have more comfort, more confidence in knowing that you can get what you need to get out of it.
Yeah, no, that's good. That's good. So, next question, which I kind of touched on, but how can you make a site better? Is just, anything you think, but a story that I like to share. When I look at a site, I always think, how can I make this site better? In Des Moines, it was downtown. We drove downtown Des Moines, and I thought, okay, there's an opportunity here. This was a long time ago, and we worked with the city, and we actually we were successful in getting the height limit increased. So here we actually asked for 80 feet. The height limit was really, we're going to build a 3-story building. We settled, and the city approved. It was their decision. We ended up at being able to build a 5-story building. But any thoughts on making a site better?
Well, I think if you define better by optimizing the yield of a site, I guess is how I would interpret that. There's several different levers, and they're typically not discretionary or up to the developer or design consultants, right? There's regulations in place that give you the recipe. The regulations, though, are extensive and take some time to really cull through. So if you invest the time in thoroughly evaluating all that either the land use or zoning regulations all those opportunities that those provide you, the physical constraints and solutions to mitigate what the topography or the utility infrastructure looks to support, can open up some opportunities.
Yeah.
And it can happen in any one of those different categories. So a thorough scan of FAR regulations or the incentives for increasing your building height in exchange for X, whatever is written in the municipal code. There may be some trade-offs to evaluate there that better the project and the local municipality, as they've stated in their code, find that it's a betterment for them as well. Likewise, from an infrastructure standpoint, civil engineering, we've found that it looks as though what you would want to do on a piece of property may not be supported by the surrounding infrastructure. However, by looking beyond the limits of the project, upstream or downstream a little bit, you might find an opportunity to say, if we change this pipe that's within the right-of-way 2 properties down, it frees up capacity. It's a nominal investment comparative to the upside that you would get in its ability to support a higher density.
Yeah, no, that's good. And that creative thinking, but also just understanding creative thinking as well as understanding a site and its location and the jurisdiction, zoning, code, all that, it just makes such a big difference.
Yeah,
that's good. And actually brings us in the next question. Working with certain jurisdictions can be challenging. I know you've had great success fostering relationships and getting projects completed in a timely manner. How are you doing that in COVID, in the current environment we're in? How's that going? Just ask you that real quick.
Yeah, it's a little challenging, and to be honest, forging deep relationships is a lot tougher. So we're leveraging the relationships that we've already had, and able to use those to the benefit of executing projects and finding solutions now. If this were to, the COVID, condition were to extend, I would say in 6-12 months, you would have to start developing some new relationships with new staff members at municipalities, and that would take a different skill set than what professionals have had to use before.
Oh yeah.
But
yeah.
I will say that the reachability of municipal staff and decision makers there, in some cases has increased, so long as you're not going through the front desk switchboard. But if you have a relationship, oftentimes they are in front of their computer and there to help. So we've seen circumstances where they've been a little bit more available. Yeah,
that's good. Yeah, I've seen that as well, actually. Making some phone calls or sending emails. Whoa. Get a response quickly. Okay, going back to due diligence. Next question. During the due diligence process, many various issues can be uncovered. That's for sure. Environmental, easements, wetlands. What is maybe 1 or 2 examples of big issues that have come up that our viewers might go through, and how your clients have solved a problem either in a unique way or in a simple way?
Boy, there are so many. I know that's a big question. The thing about most problems or challenges can be solved with money or time. Unfortunately, of those 2 resources, oftentimes one or both of them have limitations, right? So we approach due diligence by scanning through kind of your core categories of your jurisdictional requirements and permitting process, which defines what you're allowed to do and how long it's going to take to do it. Then we look at more of the environmental and the property characteristics, topography, sensitive areas, slopes, wetlands, phase one, underground storage tank issues. Then finally, your utility and roadway infrastructure characteristics of it. And any one of those could have a challenge or that could actually work to your benefit because it is influencing the market value of the property itself, but may have a solution that would significantly increase the value of the property. And for instance, a site that we've recently worked on appeared to not have sanitary sewer service, which is kind of a big deal, right? People expect to be able to run their sinks and flush their toilets and take a shower and have that water go somewhere.
Yeah.
And
it's a big deal.
It, at first glance, it appeared as though that you would have to run, half a mile of new pipe within the roadway, several $100,000. After some creative thinking, the opportunity presented itself to approach the neighboring property owner, and in exchange for an easement through that property and extending a private line and piggybacking onto that for some enhanced landscaping and some amenity improvement on that property that they were seeking, they allowed it, which ultimately saved about 6 figures to the solution.
Yeah, no, that's a big deal. That's great. Okay, last question.
Yeah.
One quick question for you. How are your projects? Are you seeing any slowdown? Are your projects going? We'll just wrap it up here in 30 seconds. What are your projects doing well? What are you seeing out there in the market?
Fortunately for us, and I can't speak to all within the kind of development community, the professional services that support that, given what we focus on, the multifamily office and mixed use, and then also your industrial and mission critical work.
Yeah.
We have not experienced a slowdown. In fact, this has been our strongest year on record. We have noticed a slight, downturn in the volume of projects within the city of Seattle proper. Don't know if that's a long-term trend, but it just seemed as though they
slowed down a little bit. Yeah.
City of Bellevue projects within that and the kind of the urban core have increased, and then city of or in the Tacoma area, we've actually seen an increase in the number of projects.
Yeah, everything you're saying, I've actually seen. Seattle, several larger developers that I know are pulling out, but I also know several that are bullish about it and think it's going to recover and be just fine. But Bellevue and Tacoma, for sure, I think are solid markets.
It's important to know that Seattle, right, was been piping hot for so long.
Exactly.
Right. So a decrease in city of Seattle does not. Another region within the U.S. would still be incredibly envious.
Yeah, agreed. Relatively. It's still a good market.
Yep.
It is still a good market. So, Paul, thank you for joining us this morning.
Yeah.
That was great, as always. So much more to talk about, but maybe we can have Paul back sometime. But Paul, thanks again. Appreciate your time very much.
My pleasure.
Great. Our final session. Guys, hope you enjoyed it, and we'll talk soon.